I will need it. Does it work? Yes, it does. Thank you, Dasha. Dear friends, I never thought I would speak ahead of the European Parliament, but here we are. Well,
Yeah, absolutely.
it's it's very interesting because I was listening to the speeches, and they're absolutely right. But I think that we're repeating ourselves for years and years and years when it comes to enlargement. We always have unconditional support for the European integration process, and always we have a but wait from the European Union for our countries. In the next 2 hours, I have another panel which is called "Where Does Europe End?" And I'm thinking about what am I going to say there. But I think that Europe ends where hypocrisy starts, and I'm going to be very blunt. In the sense that the Western Balkans, it's not in the very, let's say, in the end kilometer of European continent. It's in the middle of it. If we see the map, there is this beautiful continent. Sorry to speak like Trump now, but we have there like an area which is not blue and yellow, but it's a gray area, and this is the Western Balkans. It's in the middle, in the heart of it. We are surrounded by European Union countries. In order to go from Italy to Greece, you have to pass through this gray area and then join again the European Union map. So what does it mean? Why is our region portrayed like it's in the very end of the European continent? Not even culturally, because for centuries, we have embraced the European culture. We have been part of the European history. We have been part of the great happenings in the European history. Why are we considered continuously as a region that not doesn't deserve, but needs to fulfill a lot of conditions? We have to understand the world as it is, and of course that yesterday is over, and unfortunately multilateralism is over. The Western Balkans, the whole of it is 17 million inhabitants, the whole of it. Its economy is lower than Bavaria. So even if we have an integration of the whole region in the European Union, that wouldn't mark a significant difference when it comes to the large European continent. But we continue to hear, but wait, there are conditions, there are roadmaps, and so forth. We understand that very much. But on the other hand, we know that the process is not technical, but it's also political. And every time that EU says, but wait, China and Russia see an opportunity, see a window of opportunity, which is, of course, translated in action. I was listening to the media aspect on contaminating the social media, the minds of the people. And this is what Alexander Spasov mentions as active measures, methods from the KGB in the 70s, which are being used in our region again. So what do we do about it? How cannot we understand that with the threat that we have to multilateralism right now, we don't have to lie to ourselves. We are going into a multipolar world. The states, the big states, are starting to compete with each other. And whoever is losing now is a small state. Before the multilateralism, a strong EU, a strong UN, a strong OSCE, and all this multilateral, a strong NATO used to ensure that the rules applied for all the countries, and that the big and strong and powerful countries were susceptible to those rules as well. But now, in this changing world, we are seeing zones of influence that our countries are not immune to. So I think that this is the main discussion that we have to do inside, internally with ourselves, and then with our population. Now, why are the populists gaining ground and winning elections? I think it's for a simple reason, because we are letting territory. Simple. And in the moment that you concede territory, it's strategy, Of course that in power there is no vacuum. There is no vacuum whatsoever. If there is a momentarily vacuum in power, we know that it's going to be filled immediately by a certain power and a certain force that exists in there. So how do we gain our territory back, and how do we gain our power back? I think that the progressive and the social democratics have become so philosophically, let's say, refined that we keep continue to have thoughts and ideas about how the ideal world should be, while the rest of the people act. So I think that is the moment to start acting. And the moment to start acting, it's first of all in the internal politics. Something that is not mentioned in our region, but coming from the Ministry of Interior, working for 8 years there, I noticed something very strange and very interesting. Our countries have reformed a lot of things. They have reformed sectors of economy and agriculture, the soft power. They have reformed the army because NATO wanted to do so, but they haven't reformed the intelligence services. So in our countries, coming from that kind of past, without reforming the intelligence services, it will be next to impossible to gain pure and sheer effect and impact of the social democratic values. So I think that especially my generation, which doesn't have any sins from the past, should be more daring into asking questions and into asking how these services work and how do they support old politicians and how the old ties linking the region again and again and again are being kept strong, and how these ties are linked with non-Western powers. Because of course we have to know that if we say there is a Chinese or Russian influence in the region, then of course they will have their, let's say, mechanisms there. So who enables that? Who are the enablers of these mechanisms? Only when we have these answers and we take these kind of active measures into asking questions in governance, then we will nip the problem in the bud. I mentioned the fall of multilateralism, and I think that progressives, especially even our countries, should be staunch supporters of multilateralism. We cannot allow a world that it's like the Prime Minister of Canada said, Carney, big countries do what they can, and small countries suffer what they should. I'm not saying we are in the brink of that, but when I see threats of NATO, I am horrified. I am absolutely horrified because for the reasons that we understand. So going back to the European Union for us, it's the only plan that we have. We have no plan B. And in the moment that the train goes away, then this will call, I'm not saying disaster, but this will call a very tough and big winter for the region. Even the idea of the European Union, especially in our citizens, leaves the opportunity for us to do strong reforms. And when we wait a little bit more from Brussels, you can understand that the fatigue is quite large. But on the other hand, it's not only a political project, but it's a security project. And I'm not talking here about military security. I'm talking here about legal security. I'm talking about economical security. I'm talking about the security of the regions. We have to know that the Western Balkans is suffering from a phenomenon which we don't talk enough internationally, even though we talk in our houses, which is depopulation. And we know that depopulation in a country is one of the main reasons of the, let's say, the weakening of that kind of the country. So for us, the EU is the only, as I say, the only plan. But I think that a new discourse is needed to be done with the European Union. We should change now a little bit the way that we address, because now it's like we fulfill criteria and then we have one country setting other criteria. The only criteria we have are the Copenhagen criteria. And I think that our countries, in a certain degree, have fulfilled those criteria. Now is the moment to act, because you have two active wars, which are one is in the European continent, the other one is very close, to projection of power in the European continent. And talking about influences in the region, this region is not very, let's say, not safe, but immune. Sorry to have this very grim discourse on my side, but I think that it's very important that we ask some questions, and it's very important that we start acting accordingly to the needs of the time and not only accordingly to the theory, because this is the time of courage. If we miss the courage, then the future is not going to belong to us. Thank you.